Hi, my name is Dr. Denise, and this is this week's A Dose from Dr. Denise, where I hope to teach, show, and inspire you how to release your God-given health and life potential. Happy Sunday. I had a great week. I had my ribbon cutting at my new practice here down in Beaumont, Texas, called, ironically, A Dose from Dr. Denise, a chiropractic and mindfulness practice, because we're always practicing living a better life. And when I record these videos, I'm focusing on the second half of that mission, which is mindfulness. And what I want to do today is continue with the theme that I started last week, and I'm going to be continuing with this theme for the next several weeks. Last week I talked about the fact that we bring on so much of our own pain and suffering. Life is going to present pain and suffering outside of our control anyway, and the fact that we add to it just literally makes no sense. And so I mentioned three things last week of how we bring on our own pain and suffering. The first is when we bring the past into the present. The second was our addictive nature. And the third was really simply making poor health choices. And so for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to focus on those three things. And today I want to talk about bringing the past into the present. And I'm going to give a very, very specific example of something that happened in my life that lasted over like 20 years. It's really quite embarrassing. It has to do with panic attacks, and I think you're going to get a lot of meaning out of it. Each week I record a video about 10 minutes and I post it to my page, A Dose from Dr. Denise on Facebook, so do like that page. I also upload the videos to my YouTube channel, so you're welcome to look back at other videos. And then I take a little snippet out of the video and put it on Instagram for those with a really great short attention span. So let's get started. Before I get into the specifics of the panic attacks that I suffered from, let me just talk about this thing of bringing the past into the present. And I want to relate it to the analogy of your brain being a computer, because this makes so much sense to me. Early on in my career, I worked as an engineer for just 3 short years, but during that time I did a lot of computer programming. And so I think the brain is just literally like a computer. The actual white and gray matter is the hardware, and the thoughts that we think and repeatedly think is the software. And we get to choose what software is running on our computer. And when a virus enters our computer, we also get to choose whether we're going to get something to get rid of that virus, or whether we're just going to let that virus get really, really deep into our brain or into our computer. And so your thoughts are just these software programs that you run over and over and over again. When I was doing computer programming in my earlier years, there was one faux pas that you never wanted in a computer program, and that was called an endless do loop. And an endless do loop is when your program never went anywhere, that you would create a bunch of computer programming, if you will, and the end of the program just took you right back to the beginning. And so the program never was able to complete its task because it was on an endless do loop. And that would be like going into a maze and never being able to get out, that the maze always returns you back to the start of the maze. And when we bring our past into our present, it's like you're running an endless do loop. It's like you take a software program, you load it into your computer, and it runs and it runs and it runs, and it never gets you anywhere. And that's what happens when we take the past and bring it into the present. So I want to talk specifically about panic attacks that I used to have and relate it to this analogy. When I was in my early 20s, I was starting chiropractic college. Steve and I had just moved to Texas. And the freakiest thing happened to me. I was outside in a hallway in between classes. I was holding a hot cup of coffee without a lid. And out of nowhere, or so it seemed, I had a panic attack. Now, if you've never had a panic attack, that's awesome. And if you have, you know what I'm talking about. But a panic attack is the ultimate fight or flight response. Your body wants to fight or flee. You perspire, your heart races, You have dry mouth, you start to shake and shiver, and I had no idea where this panic attack came from. It was embarrassing beyond belief because you think everyone is staring at you, and frankly, when you are shaking, they are staring at you. I ran to the bathroom, I dumped the cup of coffee, and I was like, whew, that's over. But unfortunately, about 2 weeks later, another panic attack happened when I was at a function with my husband at his work in the evening, and I was holding at the time a glass of wine, and I had another panic attack, and I started shaking with this glass of wine. Well, unfortunately, and without giving you the boring details of this, that software program, that virus got stored in my computer, and it lasted for 20 years. And so there would be times that I was at a wedding and in a buffet line, and a panic attack would ensue if I saw that I had to, hold a plate and a glass of, even if it was just water. A panic attack might come on if I was at a seminar and I was getting a cup of coffee and I noticed that they didn't have any cups with lids, and a panic attack would start to happen. It even happened to me in church, and this is when I knew that I had to do something, because in church in New Jersey, the first Sunday of the month was Communion Sunday, and you had to take this little cup of wine, or grape juice as it was, out of the carousel, and I would start to develop a panic attack holding this little cup. It was crazy, and it sounds crazy, and it is crazy, and it was embarrassing, and I hid it, and only my closest family members knew about it. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is that it is the ultimate in me recreating the past into the present. I had this panic attack. It got stored in my brain. It got associated with what I was doing at the time, and I kept replaying the same software over and over and over again. And finally, once it started happening in church, I knew that I needed to change. I knew this wasn't from God. And what happened specifically for me was that I was listening to a tape at the time, and it directed me to 2 Corinthians 12:9. And in 2 Corinthians 12:9, it's when Paul says, God, please remove this thorn from me. And God says, no, I'm not going to remove the thorn. My grace is sufficient, and when you are weak, I am strong. And I don't know what it was, but something just broke inside. I knew that I had to overcome this. I knew that I had to overcome the fear. I knew that my spirit was stronger than the fear. And I knew it was something that I was self-creating. And so it's when I really started understanding how the brain works. I started studying neurology even more than I had learned in chiropractic college. And I learned that your brain is just an operating system that you're choosing to run software on. And so you get to choose what software that you rerun. The issue with the brain is when you choose to run a past programming software, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper embedded in the brain. And so it's really hard to get out of that software program when you've been running it over and over again. And in order to delete that software, you have to start running a new software pattern. And so I just started putting myself in the position of being, in church, or being giving a toast, or literally just holding a cup of coffee. I know it sounds goofy, in front of a group of people. And even if I started to feel a panic attack, I was able to step outside and observe it and know that that wasn't me, that was just this software program that had a virus in it that I had to get out. And so one of the quotes and one of the books that I read that helped me tremendously with this, and I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. I believe it's a bestseller by now, and it's written by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And this is the quote, how I've memorized it. I've paraphrased it a little bit, but the first part of the quote says as follows: repetition reinforces the neural circuitry in your brain. Repetition reinforces the neural circuitry in the brain. So that's a double-sided coin. If you are bringing the past into the present, and whatever horrible thing happened to you in your past, and trust me, I know horrible things have happened to you in your past, and they pale in comparison to this silly panic attack that I was having. I think God made that happen to me for a reason. reason, because it was so silly that I had to recognize that this is ridiculous. But you probably have far greater pain, just like I have other pain in my past, but you bring this pain and you bring it forward. And so you are repeating and repeating and repeating, and it's rewiring the neural circuitry in your brain to replay it. But you can flip that and repeat another software program. And the more that you repeat the other software program, I am good, I am great, my spirit, oh, absolutely is stronger than my ego. Fear is not going to win. Love is stronger than fear. When you play that software program, slowly and surely it erases this past software program. And even if you have to do things afraid, it's okay. The Bible doesn't say that you're not going to be afraid. The Bible tells us that we should do things afraid. And the only reason that we don't is we are concerned about what other people think. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that people aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, just like I'm thinking about myself more often than I'm thinking of you. So we have to stop worrying so much about what people are thinking about us. As the quote goes, I would be more concerned about what people think about me if they actually were. All right? And so bringing the past into the present is not going to serve you unless it's something that is very, very specific. I mentioned it last week, like touching a hot stove. We know that's not good. When we remember that from the past, that will serve us in the present. But there's very few examples of things that we bring forward from the past that serve us in the present. And our future is created from the current present moment. It's all we have. It's where God resides. It's where our Holy Spirit resides. We're given free will, free choice, and we get to rewrite the software program. We are in control of the operating system of our brain. And that's this week's A Dose from Dr. Denise. Please stop bringing the past into the present. You are creating trials and tribulations that need not be. And I'll finish with my prayer. Oh, Holy Spirit of God, come into my heart and fill me. I open the windows of my soul to let you in. Come and possess me. Fill me with light and truth. I offer to you the one thing I do possess, and that is the capacity to be filled by you. Of myself, Lord, I'm an empty vessel. Come and fill me. Fill me with the life of the Spirit, the life of truth and goodness, the life of beauty and love, the life of wisdom and strength. And guide me today, Lord, in all things. Guide me to the people you wish me to meet or help. Guide me to the circumstances where I may best serve you, whether by my actions or by my sufferings, Lord, but above all, may you be formed in me so that I may dethrone my ego and make you king, so that you are in me and I am in you, now and forever. Amen. Peace out. Next Sunday is a good one. I'm going to be talking about addictions. I've talked before about how I gave up alcohol a year and a half ago, and we are addicted to so many things. I think it's going to be a powerful message. Share this if it had meaning to you. Peace out, and I'll see you next Sunday.